Hi, welcome back. Module 4. Feel the vibe or not? Consonant sounds. Now, I know by now you've been working on those vowel modules. I'm hoping that you're taking your time and not trying to race it. You're going to hear me say it over and over again. The only way to succeed is to practice. You've got to learn to make new memories in your muscles and how to make these sounds. You've got to train your eyes to understand what language it is that your ears are hearing, because your ears are experiencing language very differently than your eyes are when you read it. This is just a fact. There are two very distinct languages. The spoken language has much different, we could say more relaxed rules in some ways. Okay, now, there are 19 consonants in the English language, but there are 24 consonant sounds that we're really going to be looking at in this module. Now, let's take a moment to compare what is the difference really between vowels, the way in which we make vowels, and the way in which we make consonants. Well, number one, the main difference is that vowels are created, if you recall, by an unobstructed flow of air. We direct the flow of air coming from the diaphragm, where we're breathing, as the air comes up across the vocal cords, and then we use our lips and our tongue and the organs of our articulation, which you're going to learn more of in this unit, to direct the sound, but we do not obstruct in any way, shape, or form the flow of air. And you're going to find out in a moment that consonants are in fact created by the obstruction of air. So that would be the number one difference between the two. Also, another very big feature in the difference between the two is that all vowels are voiced. Not all consonants are voiced. So those are the two main differences. And the reason why I really want you to understand your relative vowel sounds is because vowel sounds will change according to the environment of the consonants that surround them. So if a consonant is voiced, and you'll learn in a few minutes exactly what I mean by that, the vowels are a little longer than if the consonant following the vowel is voiceless. So first of all, let's figure out what's the difference between voiced or voiceless. There are three ways in which we categorize consonants. Are they voiced or are they voiceless? Where in the mouth is the sound coming from? And what organs of articulation do we use to make the sound and to block the sound? Okay, so let's look first of all, voiced or voiceless. It's very important to know the two. Some of you have a very difficult time because in your language, there are not these what we call cognates of consonants that are made the same, but the main difference is either the voice box, the vocal cords are either turned on or off. So how do you know? Let's do the simple sound. Put your hand right here, please, and make the sound of the letter S. And hold it for as long as you can, okay? For some of you, that's difficult, but just hold the S for as long as you can. And now make the Z sound of Z or Z for some of you. Z. You feel vibration. That's because your voice box is turned on. Your vocal cords are turned on. They are vibrating. Feel the vibe or not, because S, there isn't. Z, there is. And in a moment, I'm going to teach you how many of we call them cognates. They are articulated the very same. The only difference is whether the voice is turned on or not, okay? Now, let's go on to the next page, and let's look at where in the mouth do we make these consonant sounds. Well, there is no exam, as I keep telling you in this test, so you don't need to memorize them, but you need to feel them. You know me, I want you to feel where the sounds are made. I want you to hear it, and if necessary, I want you to use your mirror, and I want you to see where the sounds are made to the best of your ability. Some of them, the k, the g, are made so far back down in the throat that you can't make them. That's in the glottis area. But you'll notice that we're going to be using the lips, the tongue, the way in which we move the jaw, the way in which we use the tongue and we push the tongue up and down and use the top of the mouth, the soft palate in the back, the hard palate right there behind the front teeth. And especially the back part of the tongue, which we talked about earlier, you probably don't feel it. You don't need to feel it. I find that many students do well not feeling it, but I would be remiss if I didn't put it here because, as I've said earlier, many of the textbooks do refer to the back or the blade of the tongue. So that's how we make the sound. For example, p, b. We use the lips. It's called a bilabial. B. We use the lips to obstruct the sound. P is voiceless. B is voiced. P, the sound of the letter P, which is P. Remember now, we're talking about sounds, not the names of the letters. Because the names of the letters sound different than the sounds. So we're talking about P, B. You see, I put my lips together. And how do I make the sound? Well, what's going on with the airflow? Well, I put my lips together and I stop the air, and then I have a little explosion. And if you put your hand in front of your mouth and do that, it's called a stop plosive. It's called a bilabial, two lips, stop. You stop the flow of the air, and then you have a little explosion. So put your hand in front of your mouth and make the sound of the letter P. And you should feel a little gust of air. Now, how do we make the T or the D? Put the tip of the tongue up behind the top front teeth. Stop the air and let a little explosion. T, D. When I turn on my vocal cords, D. But they're made the same. These are called cognates. And if you'd go to the next page, your phonetic key to pronouncing consonants, I'm going to teach them to you in what we call cognates. Now, let me just tell you exactly what cognates are. Especially when referring to consonants. Cognates are consonants that are made in the same points by using the same points or organs of articulation. The only difference is that one is voiced and one is voiceless. Okay? Now, to make the sound of P or the sound of B, P as in past, or B as in better, we put the lips together. B. Repeat those, please. P, B. Past. Pepper. Better. Number. You don't want to push your P's too hard. You've heard people in front of microphones when they're really popping their P's. It's because they're almost voicing the P. Past. Pepper. So try not to push too hard on the sound of the P. Now let's look at the twins. If vowels have relatives, consonants, not all of them, but many of them, we could say they have twins, cognates. T is the silent one. He's the quiet twin. And D is the voiced one. Now, how do we make them? Well, we put the tip of the tongue, we put it behind the top front teeth, we stop the air, and then we release it. And then we turn on the vocal cords for the D. D. But see, they're made the same. They may feel a little different, but it's because it's not the tip of the tongue that's changing. You see, when you go to voice a consonant, it takes more work. It takes longer. This is why you hold vowels longer in front of voiced consonants. Because to go T is quite simple, but to go D, there's much more. T, D. You can see the face and you can feel there's more movement. But the tongue doesn't move, and it's still a stop plosive. And the tip of the tongue is still up, touching just behind the top front teeth. The only difference is the muscles that are involved to turn on the vocal cords. Okay. Time. Missed. Day. Made. Not made. Some people push the D so hard that they actually put a schwa at the end of the word. You don't want to do that. Made. Made. It's a little tiny sound. It ends on a slight vowel, but you don't want to pronounce it. It's not a beat. Made. It's just to finish off that sound. Good. Now, let's go way down here into the glottal. Way down in the throat. Now here you may feel the back of the tongue because the back of the tongue actually goes right up to the roof of the mouth. And you stop and then you explode. and its voiced twin, g, g. You may feel the blade of the tongue pushes right up to the top of the mouth, and then you let it go. G. King, cat, give, jig. Very good. Now look at those funny little sounds, those funny little symbols. Those are the symbols for the THs. And the first one, the top one, of course, is your voiceless. This is the one I call the Cirque du Soleil sound for all of you, because I've never met an accent reduction student yet who can do the TH sounds well. And its voiced twin. Now, this is an interdental. You put your tongue between your teeth. This is not a stop. This is not a plosive. You're not doing any stopping. You're not doing any exploding. This is a continuant. And this is a fricative. It makes friction, noise. And you can hold it for as long as you run out until you run out of breath. I mean, you don't usually hold it, but it could be considered a continuant as opposed to a stop. I want you to practice it as if it were a continuant, because many of you have a hard time holding it. And the problem is that you don't know how to get the tongue back in. So most of you do the z, z, like a Z or an S or a T or a D. Oh, thank you, or that's nice, or this and that, since that. But because you don't know how to get the tongue in and out fast enough. That's why I call you athletes and not academics, because you may understand it. But until your tongue knows how to do those somersaults to get in and out quickly, you just have to look at yourself as an athlete, please. So repeat after me. Thin. Bath. Now, many of you may come from a part of the world where they say bath, and that's fine. Over here, and this is standard North American English, so we have that good old American accent, bath. The point here is get the tongue in between the teeth and hold that sound long enough, okay? Thin. Bath. Now let's do th, and there's a lot more vibration because now we've turned on the vocal cords. This. And now listen to what happens to the A, the letter A. Bathe. You know it's going to go to A because this word ends in E. And so it's going to have to be a long vowel. So you have to turn on the TH, you have to make it loud. Bathe, as opposed to bath. Bathe, bath. So when I say that vowels are longer, or we elongate vowels before voiced consonants, that's a perfect example. And we do it because to say th takes more work than to say, you can see in my throat muscles, th, there's stuff going on, not much. So you could see it in your own, okay? So try one more time, repeat after me. Bath, bathe. Very good, get the tongue out there. Okay, let's look at the next cognates, the sound of the letter F, and its twin, V. V. Now, how are we blocking the air? We're putting the teeth, we're using the teeth on the bottom lip, lightly. F is the voiceless, V is the voiced. These are continuants because they can continue. And they are fricatives because they make friction. They're not stops. No. Not v. No. V. See, that's why you need to know how is it being made and what part of my organs or muscles of articulation are making these sounds. And I keep saying that's why you're athletes, because it's really minute muscle training. I mean, goodness, if we were out running marathons, you know, those muscles in the legs, they're huge. These muscles are very, very small, very small. That's why we have to really pay attention. And that's why I want you to watch what you're doing with your mirror. And I really want you to make sure you're imitating me, because these muscles are so small. And we're training them as if they were actually Olympic athletes. We're asking them like Cirque du Soleil, this TH, in, out, up, down, tie a knot, get out of the way, make the sound, get out of the way. It's incredible. So you've got to train yourself. So let's say these words: faint and cough. Don't you love O-U-G-H? There are, I think, 10 ways of pronouncing the O-U-G-H. But in this sense, it's F, cough. And let's compare that to V, voice, and never. Very good. Now, we've already done S and Z. Many of you, this is difficult. Let's feel what's going on in the tongue. Okay, this is it's called a sibilant. It's because it's noisy. It's a fricative. Let's call it. Let's just stick to the simple language, fricative, and let's just call it a continuant because this is again a sound, both this and the z, that you can hold until you run out of breath. A lot of Asian speakers have a hard time with this sound because they get the tongue in the way. So let's figure out, what are we doing in the tongue? Make the sound and get really analytical as to what's happening with your tongue. Now the tongue is kind of wide, and then the tip of the tongue points up, but it does not touch the top of the roof of the mouth, because if it did, it would stop the air. You are just trying to direct the flow, kind of like a snake. So the teeth are not tight. They're not, but they're together. It's not open. It's not a wide open sound. So if you are Asian, I really want, and you have trouble with this sound if you come from one of the Asian language groups, I want you to practice this sound because it's very difficult. It changes your whole rhythm, and it's a big mistake that a lot of you are making, and then we native speakers don't understand what you've said. And then we have a communication issue. And it's just as simple as remembering that these sounds are continuants. Okay, repeat after me, please. Sit. Kiss. Zoo. Season. Season. There we've got an S to a Z. Season. Now, you may think I'm exaggerating and holding them long, but I'm not. Okie dokie. Let's look at those next two symbols. These are probably brand new to you. And that funny little one that's like an F without the bar, that's what it looks like to me. That's the shh. You all know how to make shh. If you've held a crying baby, you have said shh. We all know how to make this sound. Shoe. Shop. Nation. Shh. That's the little symbol. Now, shh, voiceless. But that funny little Z-y looking thing underneath, that's the zzz. See, look at my mouth. Shh, zzz. Same. Only the voice is turned on in zzz, as in beige. Now, many of you want to make this beige. No, that's the next sound. This is a continuant. Beige. You should be able to hold it for as long as you like. And leisure. Now, some say leisure and some say leisure. It doesn't matter which one, just so long as you. So say those words again, please. Beige and leisure or leisure. I think I say leisure, but to be honest with you, I could probably just as easily say leisure. There really is not a difference anymore. It's whatever comes out of your mouth. Just make sure you get the zh, because that's the hard part. Now, let's go down and look at the last of our twins. And again, these are symbols that you don't know. The sound of ch starts with a T, but instead of making a T, you go to the sh. See the symbol? T, and then that little sound for the sh. Ch. So it's a stop. Again, we exploded a little bit. It's not a continuous. Don't go. You can't continue it because it starts with a T. So a T is a stop. So you can't continue it. But there's some friction because it's got the sh. So ch. Ch, as in church. Voiceless. Church. Watch. Watch. You go from the wa to the t. But instead of going t, you got ch. Okay. Now let's look at the sound of J as in judge. J. Okay. Ch is voiceless. Do the same thing, but turn on the vocal cords. J. Now it starts with a D. So it's D into J. We don't do the D, but we get in position to do the D, and then we go to J. Judge. Joy. Excellent. Now, the following consonants are not cognates, although the three, the n, and ng, the m, n, and then the symbol for ing or for ng are very similar because they all come from the nasals. Okay, that's where we push the sound out through the nasal. That's how we make those sounds. Repeat after me. Bilabial, both lips involved, pushing the nose, the sound out through the nasal passage. Feeling vibration. Tickles. Make. Mum. Lovely. Now the sound for the letter N. We put the tip of the tongue up on the roof of the mouth, but we don't stop. We have positioned the rest of the tongue, the jaw is quite free moving so that the air can come out. You can move the jaw, just keep the tongue up there. You can see, and it's a continuant. You can carry it on. Now, no. Now this little sound here, is the NG sound. It's a sound in ring. The G, the N and the G, when they are said together, are said as one sound. The G in the word ring, we don't say ringa. In the word tongue, we don't say tonga. The NG is one sound. This is where you have to train your mind, your eye, to look at that little N with the little hook and know that's the NG sound, that there's no G in that sound. Tongue. Going. It's also the sound in ing, ring. Ringer. We don't say ringer. Ringer. Tongue. So the middle of the tongue pushes way up there so that the sound comes out through the nose. Tongue. Ring. Can you feel it? How you're articulating it. Feel it. Really concentrate on it. R. Now, R, the best way, I think, to practice R is R depends on the vowel that comes before it. Watch my mouth. R, or. See, the vowel helps direct the sound of the R. R is a very difficult sound for many of you. And if you want to master it, I have to be honest, you need to take a class. It takes a lot of time for many of you to master R's. But I think if you practice enough along with me and you do your homework, you can get it sufficiently so that you can go out and speak. Now, L. Japanese have a difficult time between, and so do many Chinese language groups, between R and L. All is the sound of L. All. Look at R. Tongue is way out of the way. Tip of the tongue is down here. R. In all, the tip of the tongue goes up again. Kind of like N almost. All. All. Lonely. Barrel. Got to work on that. And you know, for those of you from the Asian groups, especially the Japanese groups, there are books now on this. There are many YouTube videos to help you. And if you still can't do it, then get in touch with me and see, maybe I can find a way to help you. But I want you, first of all, it's really important for you to do as much work on your own, because that's how you'll remember what you're learning. Okay, remember, it's experiential. If you really get stymied and you can't figure it out, drop me an email. You can find me through the website. H. For when it's sounded, sometimes in the word hour, like as in H-O-U-R, it's silent. But in heavy, behind, causes some friction. as it's coming out, and it comes up from way back here. Behind. Feel it. Hear it. Put the two together. Put that, oh, the sound I'm hearing is actually coming from in here. I want you really to become fascinated. I mean, I know I'm a geek for these sounds, and I don't expect you to become a geek like me, but I would love for you to become fascinated. The human voice, this instrument right here, is to me the greatest instrument in the world. It is greater than any Stradivarius violin, than any trumpet, any piano, any instrument that man has created. This is the greatest instrument in the world, the human voice. In my opinion, of course, I'm a voice coach and I'm a voice artist. You would expect me to be somewhat biased, but really treat it as your greatest gift. What's the first thing we do when we're born? We raise our voice. We announce that we're here. We use our voice. Master your voice. Okay, Y and W. If I were to write the books on pronunciation and linguistics, I would teach these as vowels. They're called semivowels. Why? Because there's no obstruction when you make them. Y, that's the sound of you, of Y. Y, as in you. And the sound of W is W. W, as in what, where, will. So practice these sounds and make yourself look like me. Your, young, that's y, no obstruction. And w, will, always. The other reason I would teach them as vowels is because they hook onto vowels like they are just in love with each other. They hook on like good old partners, and they ride around together. The Y and the W enables us to slide up and down our intonation patterns and hold our vowels. The Y and the W to me should be vowels because they really help to carry the music. However, I'm not a linguist, and I'm not charged to change the language. But think of them, especially for you, those of you from the Indian language groups who get W and V mixed up. In English, it's a double U, not a double V as it is in French. And in English, the W and the U are as different as night and day, and they cannot be confused as they can in the Indian languages, as they can in Hebrew, as they can in some of the Russian dialects and languages. In English, V's twin is F, and has very little to do with W, the W. En français, in French, it's W. In English, it's double U. W. Please practice that. It's one of the main things that makes people who speak so well, when they make those simple mistakes, it sounds like they don't know how to speak English again. And when you speak so well, to have some silly little mistake get in the way and devalue you goes against your success. Please, we're about now to move into the real fun part, the music, the rhythm, the stress, the intonation. Please master these sounds so that we can get together, work hard, and get them all blending and sounding together, okay? So work hard, take a good week. If I were you, I'd take at least a week to work on them, and I'll see you on the other side. Okay, get to it. Good work. Bye now.